computing. So join us and also help us by subscribing, liking and sharing our videos with your friends and colleagues. Thank you very much for choosing us. My name is Mori and I am your instructor in this course. Please join us. Hello everybody. Today we want to talk about the security in computing, and lesson 1 is the introduction to security in computing. So let's go ahead. Our learning objective here is to understand and apply the core principle of the secure computing and also cryptography. And then we want to design and implement secure system and protocols, and also could able to evaluate and mitigate security vulnerability in various computing environments. At the end, we have to analyze emerging threats and adapt advanced security technologies to us. Okay, so this is our objective in this course. So let's talk about the importance of the security in computing. So the first thing is for us in security is protecting sensitive information from unauthorized use. So this is our first goal here. So our definition here is security in computing help us to ensure that the sensitive data such as personal information, financial records, and also trade secrets is safeguarded from unauthorized access or disclosure. So, for example, as a real world example, we can talk about the healthcare record. So it means that under HIPAA or HIPAA regulations, that is compulsory in the healthcare. So you have to protect patient records against unauthorized use. So it's very important as this standard to do like this. Also in e-commerce, we need to ensure that our customer credit card data is encrypted during the transactions to not stolen by anyone else. Another thing is about ensuring about the system integrity. So it means that the integrity means that your data and our data in the system is totally reliable and not changed or deleted or edited by any other people than authorized people. So definition here, integrity focuses on preventing unauthorized alteration to the data and systems. So here we need to protect our system to not be edited or deleted our sensitive data by others than authorized people. So if any unauthorized people change our data or edit our data or deleted our data, the integrity of the system is under questions. The third one is about the availability. What it meaning? The availability means that we must ensure that authorized user anytime and anywhere want to access the system, they can access the system and data whenever they need it. So here we need to protect our system against some attacks like DDoS or DOS attacks or denial of services or distributed denial of services attacks. So we need to ensuring that our system is totally up and are accessible by the authorized user anytime they want. So for example, if in a hospital, so we have inability to access the patient records during an emergency. So there have many problems occurred here. It means that, for example, if we have some ransomware attack or some DDoS attacks, then our system in medical healthcare is unavailable, so we cannot use that in emergency points. So it's very, very hazardous and it's very dangerous for us. Okay.
So another thing is about the economic impact of the breaches. So if we want to talk about the economical outcome here, the average cost of, we can tell you, the average cost of a data breach in 2023 was 4.45 million globally. The source is IBM Security. So cybercrime is projected to cost the world 10.5 trillion annually by 2025. So for example, in 2021 we have a ransomware. So and then the Colonial Pipeline Company paid 4.4 million dollar in ransom to the hackers to get back their data, and also data theft. A Equifax breach in 2007 affected 147 million customers and costing over 1.4 billion in settlement and remediation. So it's very important to note if we have any problem in security part, we faces many economical and impact during the breach. So the next one is the mitigating cyber threats. So what it means, modern attackers use sophisticated techniques such as AI-based malware or phishing campaign. It means that security measures must evolve to counteract these threats. For example, as an example, the phishing, 91% of all cyber attacks start with phishing email. So it's very important to train our customers and also train our employer about the phishing attacks. Also about the DDoS attacks, it could flood systems with traffic to cause downtime. For example, GitHub's record 1.35 terabyte per second DDoS in 2008 occurred. The next one is the regulatory compliance. What it means that, so as you know, any of the system must be compliant to any standards or any regularity form. In security also we have some strict regularity compliance, so we need to follow. So here it means that the regular compliance, if we want to define it, it means that the adherence to legal and regularity requirement for the securing sensitive data. Let's talk about some of this regulation. The first one is GDPR. GDPR is the General Data Protection Regulation and using in European Union. CCPA is the another one. It's going for California Consumer Privacy Act that is applicable in California, and also about the health in US we have HIPAA, as we told about that, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Acts. So we have many regulation we must follow based on our countries and based on our regulation. So it's very important to follow that. Another importance of the security in computing is about the building user trust. So consumer prefer business with robust security measure. So because they want to give us their sensitive information like credit card information or any other financial information, they must trust us. So for example, post-breach, many companies experience significant declines in stock value and also customer loyalty. So it means that the user did not trust them again. And also about the inadequate security, we have some real-world impact. For example, in 2017, in Equifax breach, 147 million people's personal data exposed, and the cause of this breach is just unpatched software vulnerability. As you can see here, the consequence in this breach, we have 1.4 billion in settlement and loss of the public trust. Also in SolarWind attack in 2020, US federal agencies and corporations compromised. The cause here is supply chain attack on SolarWind's Orion software, and the consequence are long-term damage to national security and cybersecurity budget. So as you know, this was the security in computing is very important and could cause many big problems for us. Okay, let's talk about the core principle of security here. We have the first principle we are learning about in security is CIA triad. C is going to confidentiality, I is going to integrity, and A is going for availability. So confidentiality means we need to protect the information from unauthorized disclosure to individuals, entities, or processes. And key concept here is about the access control and also encryption and data classification. So with access control, we can ensure only authorized user can access the data. For example, we can use role-based access control, and based on that, we can give the access control to the user based on their role in the company. Also, encryption could help us for confidentiality. So securing data in transit and at rest to prevent interception is the goal of the encryption. And also data classification could be helpful. So we can label the sensitive data to define handling requirement for them. So let's talk about the real world example here about the confidentiality. So encrypting patient records is a need and a compulsory to be comply with the HIPAA regulation. So we need to do the encryption for the patient records in healthcare. The threats here for the confidentiality is social engineering attack, shoulder surfing, and eavesdropping. And the techniques we can use here to prevent about the losing the confidentiality is using multi-factor authentication or MFA, or for example, two-factor authentication we are using in our regular life, and also VPNs or virtual private network could be helpful. The second one is the integrity. Integrity ensures that information is accurate, consistent, and not tampered with. So the key concept here could help us for the integrity are hashing, using checksums, and also digital signatures. So in the hashing, we need to generating a unique fixed size output for the data verification, while in checksum, we validating data integrity in files or communication by using the checksums. Also, another way is the digital signatures. So authenticating the origin and integrity of digital message is used by digital signature to gain that. For example, as a real world example, in banking, we need to ensure that the financial transactions aren't altered during the processing. And also we need to know that are this financial transaction is exactly done by the authorized user or not. And also the data corruption, unauthorized modification, and MITM attack or man-in-the-middle attacks is another threat to integrity. So we can use some technique used here. For example, using secure transmission protocols like HTTPS could be helpful, and also version control systems is another way. About the availability. Availability ensures that the system's application and data are accessible for the authorized user when they need it. The key concept here is redundancy, disaster recovery, and load balancing. What it means? Redundancy, backup systems, and failover mechanism we use in this case. And also for disaster recovery, we need to have a plans for restoring services after outage. What it means, we have some disaster in our security work, and we, for example, some ransomware are going to lock our data. We must have the mirror somewhere or any other solution for that to reuse our data from our um, backdoor storage or anywhere else. And also we need to distributing the traffic across the server to prevent overloading and do the load balancing to make the system reliable and not have problem with the DOS and DDoS attacks. So for example, as a real world example, here we can ensure that uptime during the high traffic periods like Black Friday in e-commerce. So we need our website could be accessible also during the day, also Black Friday or any other day the requests are too much. And the threats here is a DDoS attacks and hardware failure and also natural disaster like floods or any other disaster. So techniques we can use here is the cloud-based scaling. As you know, we have many auto-scaling methods in the cloud. So if you can use in the cloud storage and anything and cloud services, then we can use their auto scaling and everything and prevent our website or our system to be down. And also monitoring tools and regular backup could be helpful to gain the availability. While the CIA triad, confidentiality, integrity, and availability, forms the foundation of the cybersecurity, additional principles and practices are essential to address the complex and evolving landscape of modern security challenges. These include authentication and authorization, non-repudiation, defense in depth, and also the principle of least privilege. Let's talk first about the authentication. Authentication is the process of verifying the identity of the users, devices, or systems attempting to access the resources. So there are three types of mechanism here. The first one is something you know, the second one is something you have, and the third one is something you are. Something you know means like passwords, pins, or security question. And we can, for example, we can log in into a bank account using a username and password. But something you have could be smart cards, tokens, or also OTPs or one-time passwords. For example, entering an OTP sent to your mobile devices is essential for buying something from your cards. And also something you are is the biometric identifiers like fingerprints, facial recognition, and also retina scans. So we can unlocking our smartphone as an example using fingerprint scan. So there are many trends about the authentications. For example, using the passwordless authentication is very emerging trends these days. And also continuous authentication is very important to monitor user behavior for additional verification. There are many challenges here like weak password and also password reuse. Weak password is like 1 2 3 4 5 6. Most of the people using like this password for their authentication, so it could be vulnerable for them and put them in risk against the attackers. So the solutions here to solve is one of the solution is multi-factor authentication or MFA for the enhanced security. For example, as you know, we can use some OTPs as a multi-factor and sending some message and some getting some code, sending some code to the mobile hand phone to get another layer of security and have multi-factor authentication. So let's talk about the Authorization here. Authorization determines the access rights and privilege granted to an authenticated users. So there are many models here, but the first model could be role-based access control or RBAC. So role-based access control, uh, the permissions in role-based in RBAC, the permissions are assigned based on the user roles. For example, a manager role has access to budget reports while a clerk role does not. Another way is the attribute-based access control. So in this way, access is granted based on the attributes. For example, time of access or locations. As an example, a user can only access sensitive data during work hours, not after or before. And the next one could be policy-based authorization. So, for example, granular access rules defined by organization policies and get the access to each one based on that rules. So, the first part, as an example workflow, first of all, we must verify the user identity by authentication and then check whether the authenticated user has the right to access the resource or not. This one is the authorization. So the next one we want to talk about is the next principle beyond the CIA triad is non-repudiation. And what it means? Non-repudiation guarantees that actions or communications cannot be denied by their originators. What it means, for example, let's assume that I do some transaction during the online banking and then I told the bank I didn't do that. So for example, I transfer some money or buy some stock or sell some stock. So can I deny until I am not the person who do that? So these kind of things, these kind of actions must be follow the non-repudiations. The mechanism here, the first one is digital signatures. So it could ensures that the authenticity and integrity of a digital message or document. For example, signing an email can confirm it was sent by claimant sender. And also the audit trail could records of actions and even often used for accountability and investigation. So we can find as an example logs showing when and by whom a file was accessed. So for example, in a system, someone deleted many valuable files. So the logs could help us to know who do that and when he do that. Okay, the next principle is defense in depth. So defense in depth means a multi-layered security strategy we must choose to employ a series of independent controls and measures to protect system from a wide range of the threats. So we must use layers of security. The first one could be the physical security. For example, we must for our servers room we must use some access card and some lock to prevent the access by unauthorized user or anyone don't need to access that. So the first one is the physical security. The second one could be uh, network security. So we need to protect communication channel and prevent unauthorized access. So we need to, in network, we need to use firewalls, intrusion detection or prevention systems or IDS or IPS. And also another layer could be application security. So we must ensure that our software is secure against vulnerability. So we need to do the input validation, secure coding practices, and also some other mechanism to ensure that the security of application is completely reliable. And the next one could be endpoint, and the next layer could be endpoint security. So we need to protect individual devices like laptops, smartphones, and so on. So we need to use antivirus software, endpoint detection and response, or EDRs, and also anything, also firewall we can use in the endpoint. So these are some of the layers of the defense in depth. Also, we must have data security to protect sensitive information through encryption and also access control. So as an example, encrypting data at the rest and also in transit could be very helpful for data security. The next one is the principle of the least privilege. So the principle of least privilege, users and systems are granted only the permission necessary to perform the task and no more. So it means that if one user just want to access and read some data, we must not giving him or her an access to edit the data. So just for any users and any system, we must grant it, we give them only the permission they needed, exactly needed. So first of all, as a key practices, we need to minimizing the access. For example, a customer service agent has access to customer account detail, but cannot modify system settings. The next one, just-in-time or JIT access, the temporary access granted for a specific task. So for example, an IT technician given admin privilege only for the duration of the maintenance. And also another mechanism could be separation of the duties. So for example, critical tasks could be divided among multiple users to prevent fraud or abuse. As an example, one employee initiate a financial transaction while another approve it. So benefit here could reduce the attack surface, limit the impact of compromised account, and prevent accidental or intentional misuse of privilege. So it means we must use the POLP, as a principle of least privilege in our systems. So here we want to talk about the security threats and their categories. So a security threat is any event or condition that could compromise the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of information or systems. So here you can see again about this about the CIA trial. So there are three categories here we could face on that. The first one is the internal threats. So it could be arise from within an organization. For example, disgruntled employees or accidental error could be as an example of the internal threats. As an external threat, it means that it comes from outside of the entities. For example, hackers or cybercriminal groups. And natural threats could be including the natural disaster impacting the system, like earthquakes, like floods, or something like this. So it's very important to know and be ready about all of these categories of the threats: internal, external, and also natural. So let's talk about the type of cyber threats. The first one is the malware. Malware is the malicious software designed to disrupt, damage, or gain unauthorized access to the system. We have four common types of the malwares. The first one is the viruses. The viruses attach to a file and spread when executed. The next one is the worms. The worm are the self-replicating programs that spread without user actions. And the third one is the Trojans. Trojans disguise it as a legitimate software but perform malicious activities. And in Trojan also we must use an holder, for example, an image or an file or anything else. And the ransomware encrypt the data and demands a ransom for decrypting keys. For example, if you attack by ransomware in your computer, the ransomware will encrypt all of your information and data and ask you to pay them to give back the keys and decrypt your data. There are some real world examples here. For example, in 2017, we have a WannaCry and as a global ransomware attack affecting 200,000 systems in 150 countries. The next type of the threats or cyber threats is phishing and social engineering. So attackers use the manipulative technique used to trick individuals into revealing sensitive information or performing harmful actions. Technique used here, the first technique is a fake email. So they impersonating trusted entities and ask you to click on a link or going somewhere. And the next one is the pretexting and baiting. They leaving infected USB drives in the public space and you use it in your computer that they sense and they can access your computer during using that USB drives. So this is another type of the cyber threats also. So the next one could be insider threats. So the threats originating from individual within an organization could be called insider threats. So categories here could be negligent insider or malicious insider. Malicious insider means that employees intentionally harming the organization, but negligent insiders employees accidentally exposing the system to the risk. So for example, as a real world example, a former employee of Tesla attempt to sabotage their system in 2020. Another type of the cyber attacks could be DOS and DDoS attacks. DOS means denial of services, and also distributed denial of services is the DDoS. So these kind of attacks could flood a system with traffic, rendering it unavailable to legitimate users. So its impact the business could be business downtime, revenue loss, and also customer dissatisfaction. As a real-world example of the DOS or DDoS attack, in 2018, GitHub have the record breaking of the 1.335 Tbps or terabit per second DDoS attacks. Next type of the cyber threats could be APT or advanced persistence threats or APTs. So it means that long-term targeted attack by sophisticated group often aiming to steal sensitive information. So characteristic is persistent, stealthy, and also complex. As an example, in 2020 we have SolarWinds attacks. So nation state actors infiltrated government and private networks as one of the biggest cyber attacks in the history in 2020 for SolarWinds attacks. Another type of threats could be SQL injection. SQL injection, the attackers exploit the vulnerability in database by injecting malicious SQL code, and it could impact by unauthorized data access, also corruption, and also deletion. For example, in 2014, Sony Picture had attacked and exposed confidential employee data. Another type of cyber threats is cross-site scripting, or XSS. It's happened by injecting malicious script into web application, often targeting user browsers, and it could impact by stealing session cookies, user credential, or executing unauthorized actions. As an example, in 2019, PayPal put in danger, and a vulnerability allowed attacker to redirect the user to phishing site, and it's very dangerous in that time. And the other one is the man in the middle attack, or MITM attacks. So an attacker intercept communication between two parties to eavesdrop or alter data. So the common scenario is unsecured public Wi-Fi, using unsecured public Wi-Fi network, or HTTPS downgrade attacks is another scenarios. And their impact could be data theft, impersonation, and also compromised communication. If you want to categorize the threats or cyber threats based on the target, we can categorize them in three categories. The target could be individual, the target could be organization, or the target could be critical infrastructure. In the first type, they they attack the individual to identity. To about the identity theft, online scam, and also ransomware are the categories of the individual threats. And also about the organization, intellectual property theft or IP theft, espionage, and also insider threats could be some threats that is within target the organizations. And also cyber attack on utilities, healthcare, and financial system, like Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack in 2021, could be target the critical infrastructure. So let's talk about the threat vectors. So it means that how they want to access us or our system. The first type is the email, and phishing and malware-laden attachment could send through the email and could be used as the first threat vectors. The next one could be web application. For example, SQL injection, XSS, and session hijacking is a type of the threat vector in using the type of the attacks using the web application. The next one is IoT devices. Poorly secured devices exploited for botnet, for example, Mirai botnet. And also in supply chain, compromising software provider or third-party vendors could be another threat vectors. As an example, very near in last year, we have an attacks to the many of the airport in the world, as you remember. So that one is because of the one of the third party vendors, they do the patch regularly and put all of the airport in the world in danger. So emerging threats here is using AI or AI-driven attacks, also quantum computing risk, and also deepfake. Deepfake means using AI to create convincing fake audio or video for the social engineering. Also, another part, using quantum computing, could break all the traditional cryptographic algorithm, and it's very dangerous in near future. And also AI-driven attacks, AI could generating phishing emails or bypassing the captchas. So it could be very dangerous in our systems these days. Okay, thank you very much for watching my video. This is an introduction to security in computing, and I would be grateful if you um, support us by subscribe, like, and share with your friends and colleagues. And I want to ask you, please give me your valuable feedback in the comments. It could be very helpful for us.